If the 1990s gave us one thing we'll never forget, it's motorcycles built like steel-bone legends. This was the last great decade before the digital age took over. Back then, Japanese engineers were crafting machines with one mission: to take you across continents without a single complaint, and then be ready to do it all over again the next year. Today, we're counting down 12 Japanese motorcycles from the 90s. So tough, so reliable, and so unapologetically overbuilt, they might still be running long after we're gone. And trust me, by the time we hit number one, you'll have no doubt that the 90s were the golden age of the forever bike. Let's begin. At number 12, Yamaha TDM 850. When you talk about 90s Japanese motorcycles that last forever, this one has to be in the conversation. Built from 1991 to 2001, it was years ahead of its time, mixing sport, touring, and adventure into one machine that could do it all. At its heart is an 849 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled parallel twin that makes around 77 horsepower at 7,500 RPM and delivers just under 60 pound-feet of torque. That is paired with a strong steel-pressed frame and quality suspension, with a 1.6-inch telescopic front fork and an adjustable rear shock. The upright riding position was revolutionary in the 90s, and even today it feels like a bike built for comfort over the long haul. What really made the TDM stand out was its unmatched reliability. Robust components, a simple carbureted fuel system, and easy maintenance meant this bike could take thousands of miles without complaint. Riders loved how it could commute during the week and tour all weekend without breaking a sweat. Back in the 90s, its price made it accessible to serious riders, and today you can find clean examples for between $2,500 and $5,000, depending on mileage and care. For a motorcycle over 20 years old, that is outstanding value, and it proved that big, versatile twins could chew up miles without breaking a sweat. But not every rider in the 90s needed that much size or power. Some wanted a machine that was lighter, friendlier, and still had the kind of bulletproof engineering you could bet your license on. And that's where the next bike made its name. Securing number 11, Kawasaki Ninja 250R. Built from 1988 to 2007, this legend of small displacement sport bikes earned its place as one of the best Japanese motorcycles from the 90s that truly last forever. Its reputation for reliability, simplicity, and pure riding fun is why it remains a favorite among both new riders and seasoned enthusiasts. The 90s versions carried a rock-solid 248 cubic centimeter liquid, cooled inline twin with dual overhead cams in a high compression ratio of 12.4 to 1, producing about 28 horsepower. At roughly 355 pounds wet, it offered light, precise handling with top speeds near 100 miles per hour. Fuel economy was equally impressive at up to 60 miles per gallon, making it both thrilling and economical. Owners routinely report these bikes reaching 50,000 miles or more with only basic care like oil changes, chain adjustments, and tire replacement. Problems are rare and usually minor, while parts remain easy to find thanks to steady demand. Back in the 90s, it was already affordable, and today, clean examples from that era run between $2,000 and $3,500, depending on condition and mileage. That is outstanding value for a machine that can still turn heads and deliver decades of service. But by the late 90s, some riders were ready to climb a rung higher, something still friendly and reliable, but with the punch to keep pace with bigger machines. That's when Suzuki rolled out a V-twin that would quietly become one of the most beloved middleweights of all time. Number 10, Suzuki SV 650. Produced from 1999 to 2002, this first-generation carbureted model is a true icon among the best Japanese motorcycles from the 90s. Launched as an affordable, versatile, and fun middleweight, it struck a perfect balance between performance, reliability, and everyday usability. Power comes from a 645 cubic centimeter liquid, cooled 90-degree V-twin, delivering about 70 horsepower with a torque-rich mid-range that keeps the ride engaging. Weighing in at roughly 364 pounds, it feels light, neutral, and incredibly responsive, whether slicing through twisty back roads or navigating busy streets. Its reputation for durability is legendary, with countless examples surpassing 50,000 miles when given regular oil changes and routine care. Even its carburetors, while needing occasional cleaning, are simple and dependable. Today, these first-gen SV650s can often be found between $2,000 and $3,500 for clean examples, which is outstanding value for a machine that still looks, feels, and rides like a classic. The SV650 is more than just a bike. It is a timeless companion that blends practicality, performance, and enduring build quality that riders continue to trust year after year. But while Suzuki was making waves at the turn of the millennium, Honda had already been quietly fielding a machine throughout the 90s that didn't need hype to earn loyalty. Coming in at number 9, Honda CB750 Nighthawk. Built from 1991 to 2003, this legendary machine takes the CB750 legacy and delivers a perfect blend of classic styling, modern performance, and bulletproof reliability. At its heart beats a 747 cubic centimeter air-cooled inline 4 paired with a 5-speed transmission. Producing about 75 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque, it delivers smooth, confident power across the mid-range, making it equally at home in daily commuting or spirited weekend rides. Comfort is a big part of its appeal, with an upright riding position, broad handlebars, and a flat, cushioned seat that keeps you relaxed mile after mile. The Nighthawk's reputation for longevity is unmatched, with many examples surpassing 100,000 miles when cared for properly. The design is mechanically simple, with easily sourced parts that keep ownership costs low. In the 90s, it sold for around $4,000 new, and today, well-kept examples from that era run between $2,000 and $3,500. The Honda CB750 Nighthawk is a timeless choice for riders who want enduring quality, all-day comfort, and the kind of classic style that never goes out of fashion. But its air-cooled 4 and lack of wind protection hold it back when the miles start to stretch into triple digits at highway speeds. Riders who want to cruise all day at high velocity without feeling wrung out often turn to something with more muscle, better aerodynamics, and long-haul stamina baked in from the factory, and that's exactly what our next pick delivers. Claiming number 8 spot, the Yamaha FJ1200. This isn't just a sport touring machine from the 90s. This is a road-burning, mile-eating legend that refuses to die. Built in its final and most refined form between 1991 and 1996, with US models mainly until 1993, the FJ1200 earned a reputation for being both brutal in power and gentle on its owner's wallet. At its heart beats an 1,188 cubic centimeter air and oil-cooled 4-cylinder engine, delivering roughly 130 horsepower and a tidal wave of torque. That torque makes it quick without forcing you to wring its neck, which is exactly why these motors last decades. Long-distance comfort comes standard with its upright ergonomics and big fairing that eats highway wind for breakfast. The suspension is on the softer side but adjustable, letting it carve twisties in a way that embarrasses younger bikes. Owners brag about 2 decades of riding with no major breakdowns. Keep up on oil, mind the brakes and suspension bearings, and this thing just keeps going. Back in the day, it was priced like a flagship, and now you can snag one for around $2,100 to $3,500 depending on care and upgrades. That's pocket change for a machine that blends speed, comfort, and bulletproof reliability. If you are enjoying this ride, hit like and subscribe so you do not miss the next stretch of the journey. The best machines are still ahead. The FJ1200 dominates long stretches of asphalt with effortless speed and comfort, but its focus on touring refinement and a larger, fully faired frame keeps it from feeling as raw and aggressive as some riders crave. For those who want that same legendary reliability, but wrapped in a naked, street-focused package that's more immediate, more visceral, and just as durable, Suzuki answered the call with a machine that punches harder in the city while still eating miles like a pro. Number 7, Suzuki Bandit 1200. When Suzuki unveiled this machine in 1996, riders quickly learned it was a street bully with a reliable heart and a price tag that made competitors nervous. Powering it is an 1,157 cubic centimeter air and oil-cooled inline 4 adapted from the fearsome GSXR 1100, but tuned for muscular mid-range pull instead of sky-high redline drama. That gives you roughly 98 horsepower and about 61 pound-feet of torque delivered in a smooth, steady surge. You get usable power from low revs, which means less thrashing, less stress on the engine, and a ride that feels effortless on city streets or open highways. The chassis, built from a strong steel tube frame, is paired with preload adjustable 1.69-inch front forks and a responsive rear monoshock. At around 465 pounds, it strikes a sweet spot between stability and agility. It can carve back roads, cruise at 75 miles per hour all day, or haul a passenger and gear without complaint. In its day, the Bandit undercut rivals by hundreds of dollars, and today, clean examples typically run from about $2,000 to $4,000 depending on condition and upgrades. For riders wanting a bike that's strong, adaptable, and built to rack up high miles without flinching, the Bandit 1200 stands tall as a true 90s survivor. But the Bandit 1200 sits at 7th because while it delivers unbeatable value and rock-solid street performance, it's still very much a road-focused machine. Its weight and sport touring roots mean it shines on pavement, but won't thank you for long detours onto rough trails. That's where our next pick climbs higher. It sacrifices some high-speed refinement in exchange for legendary off-road resilience and a simplicity that makes it almost impossible to kill, no matter where you ride it. Number 6. Honda XR6 150L. Since its debut in 1993, this bike has earned a reputation as a tough, go-anywhere machine that refuses to quit. At its core is a 644 cubic centimeter air-cooled single-cylinder four-stroke engine, built with a low 8.3-to-1 compression ratio. That design means it will happily run on regular fuel, reducing stress on the motor and adding years to its life. The carbureted setup and simple mechanical systems keep things basic and bulletproof, avoiding the electronics that can sideline newer bikes. Every XR650L is still built in Japan, a detail that keeps Honda's renowned quality control fully intact. The chassis is equally rugged, with long travel suspension, a tall 21-inch front wheel, and an 18-inch rear. At just about 346 pounds wet, it's light enough to handle tricky off-road trails, yet steady enough for long highway miles. Riders love how it blends dirt capability with everyday practicality. Back in 1993, it sold new for roughly $4,400, and today a brand new one runs around $7,000, with used examples ranging from about $3,000 to $6,000 depending on condition. With its durability, simplicity, and legendary Honda reliability, the XR650L remains a king of longevity from the 90s. But as capable as it is off-road, spending hours in the saddle on the highway can be tiring. The tall stance, the single-cylinder vibration, and the wind all take their toll. Moving up the list, the next machine takes that same reputation for reliability and applies it to a very different mission, covering long distances in comfort with the kind of weather protection and luggage space that makes cross-country travel a pleasure. Number 5. Kawasaki Concourse ZG1000, also known as the GTR 1000. In the world of sport touring, this bike is a legend. Built from 1986 to 2006, the 90s models proved almost impossible to wear out. At its core is a 997cc liquid-cooled inline-4, borrowed from the Ninja 1000 and tuned for smooth, relentless touring power. It makes just over 100 horsepower, enough to devour interstates and carve mountain roads without breaking a sweat. The shaft drive, maintenance-free and built for a lifetime. Owners have stacked on well over 100,000 miles with nothing but oil, tires, and gas. Comfort, full fairings, a tall windscreen, plush two-up seating, and roomy locking saddlebags. It may not look flashy, but function beats fashion every time. Back in the 90s, a new Concourse cost around $8,300. Today, clean examples from that era go for $3,500 to $5,000. An absolute steal for a bike that can outlast its rider. This is the no-nonsense, cross-country warhorse of the countdown. But while it's unmatched for long-haul comfort and mechanical endurance, It carries the bulk and touring focus that not every rider wants. Some prefer a machine that keeps the reliability, but adds sharper handling, sportier lines, and a more engaging feel in the twisties. That's exactly where our next pick steps in, a bike that proved you could have long-distance dependability without giving up that sport bike soul. Number 4, Honda VFR 750F. Between 1990 and 1997, this bike earned its place as one of the most respected machines ever built. It is the perfect mix of sport bike speed and long-distance comfort, making it a ride that stays in the game for decades. At its heart beats a 748cc liquid-cooled V4 with gear-driven camshafts, famous for that unmistakable cam whine and near-indestructible design. With just over 100 horsepower, it delivers torque that pulls hard yet remains perfectly civilized for daily use. Honda engineered it with a premium aluminum frame, a single-sided swing arm, and handling so balanced it feels like part of your body. Riders regularly see over 100,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes and valve checks every 50,000 miles. Sure, alternators can tire out and suspension can soften with age, but those are minor issues for a bike this tough. Back in 1990, it cost around $7,000. Today, clean 90s models land between $3,500 and $7,000. Serious value for a bike that will likely outlast its next two owners. The VFR 750F is not just a motorcycle. It is a living, breathing legend, a machine so perfectly balanced that it practically writes its own chapter in the history of sport touring. But now buckle up because we are about to trade precision-crafted speed for raw, unstoppable grit. If the VFR is a symphony, the next bike is a thunderstorm, a single-cylinder juggernaut that laughs at pavement, laughs at schedules, and dares you to keep up. Number 3, Suzuki DR 650 SE. Since 1996, this dual sport has been the poster child for simplicity, toughness, and go-anywhere freedom. At its core is a 644cc air, an oil-cooled single-cylinder engine so rugged it feels like it was carved from bedrock. Suzuki redesigned it in 1996 with a slimmer engine, a single gear-driven counterbalancer to tame vibrations, and more low-end and mid-range torque for effortless pulling power. The steel frame and long-travel suspension soak up dirt trails, washboard gravel, and city potholes with equal ease. Maintenance, almost laughably simple: oil, filters, and the occasional valve check. Owners rack up over 100,000 miles without splitting the cases. The DR thrives in every role: daily commuter, backcountry explorer, or cross-continent pack mule. In 1996, it sold for around $5,200. Today, brand new is about $7,000, and clean 90s examples run from $2,800 to $5,500. For a bike that will outlast your knees, that is a bargain. But the DR's secret to longevity, its stripped-down, no-frills nature, is also its biggest limitation. Out on the highway, the wind wears you down, the small tank keeps you hunting for gas, and the minimalist design leaves little room for long-haul luxuries. That is where the next bike changes the game, keeping the toughness, but adding the kind of range and comfort that turns a road trip into a cross-continent adventure. Number 2, Kawasaki KLR 650 Gen 1. From the moment it rolled out in 1987, the Kawasaki KLR 650 built a reputation as the iron horse of dual sports. By the 90s, it was already legendary for going anywhere and surviving everything. At its heart is a liquid-cooled 652cc single-cylinder that delivers a rock-solid 42 horsepower. Not flashy, but enough to cruise highways, climb fire roads, and cross continents without breaking a sweat. That steel cradle frame and long-travel suspension soak up punishment from potholes to desert washboards. Riders praise its simplicity: no fragile electronics, no endless menus, just a key, a choke, and a throttle. Stories of KLRs hitting 100,000 miles on oil changes alone are common. One rider took his around the world, replaced a clutch cable in Mongolia, and kept going. Parts are cheap, fixes are easy, and the aftermarket is huge. 90s models still trade hands for as little as $2,500, and they will keep running when modern adventure bikes are begging for diagnostics. But here's the thing. While the KLR is a master of surviving anything you throw at it, it is still very much a rugged tool, and it asks you to share in the work of every mile. For the diehards, that is part of its soul. But there is a different kind of greatness, the kind where the machine disappears beneath you, where speed feels effortless, and the miles melt away almost unnoticed. This is the point in the list where utility meets mastery, and good becomes exceptional. Rolling in with unmatched dominance, claiming the #1 throne, Honda ST1100 Pan European. When it comes to 90s machines that simply refuse to die, the Honda ST1100 Pan European sits at the very top of the food chain. Built as a sport touring thoroughbred, it was engineered for endless miles with comfort and confidence. At its core is a liquid-cooled 1084cc V4 engine delivering just over 100 horsepower. Smooth, torquey, and utterly unflappable, it pulls hard on the highway, yet cruises like a luxury liner. The shaft drive means no messy chains, the 5-speed gearbox shifts like silk, and the chassis stays rock steady, even loaded for a cross-country run. Owners tell legends of these bikes passing 100,000 miles without drama. Many have doubled or even tripled that number with nothing more than fluids, tires, and the occasional brake job. The ST's bodywork shelters you from wind and weather, making it a favorite among iron butt riders. 90s models in good shape can be found for around $2,500, and they will still outlast most modern tours. This is not just a motorcycle, it is a mile-eating, continent-crossing monument to Honda engineering. And with that, our countdown ends. 12 unstoppable Japanese machines from the 90s that will keep rolling long after the odometer gives up. But the ride continues. Click the video on your screen and subscribe to stay with us for the next adventure.